baseball's float. The San Diego Padres were financially sinking at the end. There we
Bang.
go. How about that transition? Bridge loan team. The San Diego Padres and AJ Preller are in a decision-making point. They are at an inflection point in their franchise, I'd say. As of right now, their estimated tax payroll, accounting for arbitration and pre-arbitration estimates, is at $199.9 million. Shout out them, just like gas prices, under the firm dollar. The competitive balance tax is at 237. They clearly want to stay below that based on what we've read in regards to the San Diego Padres. I wonder if $200 million is the point that they want to stay below. The moves so far, they traded Juan Soto and Trent Grisham to Peter's New York Yankees for Michael King, Drew Thorpe, Johnny Brito, Randy Vasquez, and Kyle Higashioka.
Please.
They reportedly agreed to terms with Yuki Matsui, who was one of the best closers in Japan, for 4 years and $21 million. They also got cheaper in the setup role, trading Scott Barlow to Cleveland, who's estimated to be worth about $7.2 million in arbitration this year, for Enyel De Los Santos, who's worth about $1 million in his first year of arbitration. They also got the Matt Carpenter money off the books for the most part, along with Ray Kerr to Atlanta, and they hired Mike Shildt as their manager, but they lost Blake Snell, Josh Hader, Rich Hill, Michael Wacha, Seth Lugo, Nick Martinez, Garrett Cooper, Drew Pomeranz, Gary Sanchez, G-Man Choi, Tim Hill, and Austin Ola. That's a lot of guys that just disappeared.
That's a team they just lost.
That's a team that they just lost. So we'll go through position by position, but Aram Layden, overall state of the San Diego Padres right now in 1 to 5 words. How would you put it?
Fascinating. I actually find it fascinating. And I'll get into it because you only gave me 1 to 5 words. So I don't. Do you want me to get into it now or save it?
So your one word was fascinating. Elaborate on fascinating.
Okay. So I want to see AJ Preller work with some restraint. Like I want to see what it looks like when AJ Preller's hands are tied a little bit, when he has to be economical, when every move matters a little bit. And Preller's a smart mind. He's one of the best scouts that we've seen in a long time. I mean, look at the way that they draft every single year. But it's always been swing for the fences, throw money at guys. I got endless money behind me, which is great. Testament to the ownership that, was so good. And we need more owners like the Padres have had. But, I do feel like that there was almost this recklessness that came with that to a degree. And now he's got to work with between the margins. He's got to be really efficient. He's got to be very, very particular with where he spends his money, where he wants to allocate that. I love Yuki Matsui. We'll get into that in a second, but I thought it was crazy that they gave him a 4-year deal, probably more years, less AAV. That's what they're looking at. I'm just fascinated to see what AJ Preller does and how he operates with some constraints. And I've kind of liked some of the savviness that we've seen. We haven't seen these smaller moves from Preller, and that's what it's going to take for them to be competitive.
Yeah, and this, I don't know, this tightening of assets is by no means attributed to Peter Seidler, the late Peter Seidler now, who loved his San Diego Padres and was willing to, extend beyond maybe their financial reaches in order to win baseball games in San Diego. He was one of the great owners in professional sports. Going to miss him dearly. But you also have to factor in that, hey, their RSN deal fell out. Like Bally, the first team that Bally dropped was the San Diego Padres. Major League Baseball took over their local telecast. They had big money committed. Man, we looked at that Xander Bogaerts deal last year and it was like, I'm sorry, how much did that guy just get? There were so many big money things that are not necessarily working in their favor, where it's entirely understandable that they got to peel it back a bit financially, because there are very few markets that can handle that type of financial commitment to like 5 players and losing TV rights. Like it's just bizarre what they're going through. Peter, 1 to 5 words. Where are the San Diego Padres?
Can I use an analogy instead of 1 to 5 words? It'll be short.
Sure. Go ahead.
So the San Diego Padres kind of remind me of when you go to a bar and you see a pretty girl ordering a drink, and then you go up and talk.
Isn't
to her.
your girlfriend sitting right next to you?
No comment. She's like a pretty girl. You go up to a bar, and then you talk to her, and she's extremely shallow. She's got no personality at all. That's what the
not
Padres,
your girlfriend.
That's not my girlfriend at all. My girlfriend's perfect.
Yeah.
But that's what the San Diego Padres remind me of. They're very pretty. Xander Bogaerts, Fernando Tatis Jr., Manny Machado, Joe Musgrove. They have plenty of pizzazz, but then you look deeper into their roster, and you're looking at Cal Mitchell and Jose Azocar in the outfield. It's a lot of bling without really any substance to it. So that's how I would describe the current San Diego Padres.
It went way better than I thought it was going to go. I was kind of nervous when you started talking about like, oh, you see a girl. I'm like, oh God, where's it going to go? I was like, that actually was a good analogy. I kind of with them on that. The front, it's like almost like when you have a building and the front looks great and then you open the door and then there's nothing behind it. It's just a blown out wall where they took down the whole building but left the wall up. Like that's where it feels like sometimes. But that said, their looks could be enough to get them over the top. Like these stars are really good if they all play the way that they're able to play. And
She is
as
hot.
you know, in this world, looks could take you pretty far. Like people have ridden looks pretty far. But I do agree. Like there needs to be more beneath the surface, and that's why I'm so fascinated by what he's gonna do. Because it's like you don't need to go get a superstar, but how are you gonna piece this shit together? Like who are you gonna find can give you replacement level production? If they can get replacement level production from 5 to 9, and the guys 1 through 4 hit the way they're capable of, they're in good shape.
And to that point, Arm, it's not hard to get some of these guys, right? They need outfielders. There are plenty of free agent outfielders that are going to be relatively cheap that we can sign to this team and be thinking to ourselves immediately, this is a better option than what they currently have. It's not really that hard to get out of their hole because, to your point, the looks of this team, Fernando Tatis Jr. is one of the best players in Major League Baseball. So is Manny Machado. Bogaerts was dealing with a wrist injury last year, and it was his first year under a big contract in a new team across the country. I assume that he is going to bounce back as well. Joe Musgrove was injured for a lot of the year. Like, they do have some core incredible pieces. We just got to fill in the other aspects. We got to teach this girl some manners.
Yeah, I do think that analogy is very, very, very similar to what we were saying at the beginning of the 2023 season. And hell, maybe like last offseason when we were talking about this team immediately after the Bogaerts thing. This was on paper coming into 2023, far and away the most top-heavy team in Major League Baseball, maybe the most top-heavy team of recent memory, like since 2000, the most top-heavy team. Now it's still top-heavy, and you took Juan Soto off the team, and you added depth in return for Juan Soto. So it's less top-heavy now, but they don't have the depth because we mentioned the entire team just left in free agency or via trade. I love the return they got in that Soto deal. It's really hard to say bye to Juan Soto, but at that price point for 1 year, for them to go get their 3 and for them to go get maybe their 4 and 5 at points this year too for Juan Soto is great. But let's go position by position here. Catching tandem, you don't need to touch. Luis Campusano and Kyle Higashioka. I feel good about that tandem.
Finally.
Me too. I'm good.
Finally.
Yeah.
Unleashed Campy. Are you excited, Arm?
I am. I've been begging for this for years now. Years.
Jake Cronenworth is at first base.
Ugh.
You're not getting out from that contract. Can't do anything.
It just stinks that he's the first baseman. Like if he was this utility player, he's valuable. But as the big swinging first baseman,
yeah.
Ugh.
Second base, Ha-Seong Kim, Tyler Wynn, Aggie Rosario are his backups. Ha-Seong Kim is one of the more underrated players in baseball, so you're cool with it.
Sure.
Manny Machado at third, cool with it. Matthew Batten is his backup. You don't love that. Graham Pauley's not far away. Arm, can Pauley play third, or is he a left fielder?
He can play a decent third. I think he's a fine backup that could fill in.
Cool. And then Bogaerts at short. You assume Kim can fill in. Aggie can fill in as well. And hell, man, Jackson, Maryland, far away either.
No. I'm going to get into that because, like, I think left field, I think they might not do anything.
Interesting.
That's what I think. I think they may not do anything. Jackson Merrill started to see reps in left field at the end of the year. That's going to be just in the short term, right? Because you're going to probably lose Ha-Seong Kim. Merrill will probably fill in at second base in 2025. He was getting reps in left. He's a great athlete, elite bat to ball guy, sneaky power, great makeup. They love him. If he shows well in AAA, maybe they bump him up. Maybe he can make the team outright out of camp, especially with the prospect promotion incentive and how well the Padres draft. if he does well, I mean, they love that additional draft pick. They could really use that right now. I think you have Paulie, who showed out really well last year, solid looking in the fall league, can also play left. Between him and Paulie, and then I think they have a few other prospects that you could potentially kind of have this open competition for out there. I think they may just do nothing there and save the money. Jacob Marcy was awesome. He was the MVP of the Arizona Fall League. Unbelievable year. Can play all three outfield spots. Another guy that could be a candidate. You got three legitimate candidates that could kind of earn the spot in left. I think they might just leave that open.
What about
Yeah.
center?
So the outfield right now is Tatis and right. I have no issue with Fernando Tatis Jr. right field. Let's
He's
make that clear.
Arguably the best right fielder in baseball outside of Acuna. I mean, he just had an
He won-
amazing year. The defense on this guy, he's such a freakazoid out there.
Dude, he was a platinum glover this year. He won the platinum glove. He was the best
Amazing.
defender in the National League.
And you know, sometimes when they give the platinum glove away, and you're like, he didn't deserve it. Tatis deserved it. The defensive runs saved, the outs above average. He was in the 99th percentile, basically everything. The arm transition over there. Just one of the great athletes that we have in Major League Baseball.
Amazing. So you got Tatis in right, Jose Azocar in center, and Cal Mitchell in left with Tirso Ornelas as the fourth outfielder on Fangraphs. Don't panic with Fangraphs because Aram just laid it out for you. You've got Merrill as a possibility, Marcy is a Marcy is a possibility, Paulie is a possibility. There are options galore here. Aram, what do you think the best version of the Padres, if they make no moves, opening day outfield looks like?
I would they're not gonna, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like Tatis is gonna be a platinum glover and right. I would have loved to have seen the center field experiment. Can't do it now. So I think it's Tatis and right. Azokar is I think actually not the worst. I want to see a little bit of an opportunity to see Azokar there, but Azokar backed up by Marcy because I like Marcy in center field. I think he's a good defender there. And then left field, you're either having one of Marcy or Azokar or Merrill. And I think that's probably the best way to go about it. And I mean, that's not the sexiest, but it's a good defensive outfield. I do think Merrill's going to settle in and be good out there. Really fast outfield. And, you know, you think those guys can at least hit their weight at the back of at the end of the order. I think Marcy can. I think Merrill can. It's not the worst outfield.
I have a player who I think they should add that solves a couple of things. And I'm going to start it with a question. Who's the Padres DH?
Tirso Ornelas?
Ugh, no, it's not.
The San Diego Padres were 13th in home runs last year. You look at their team, and they got to replace the 35 home runs left by Juan Soto. I think what they should do is they should add Jock Peterson. I think he could be a DH. I think he could also serve in left field until maybe a Jackson Merrill is ready. I think that's the guy that they have to add. I think you need kind of a power bat in this lineup. Because when I look at the lineup, like, yes, Machado and Tatis are going to hit their home runs, but outside of them, there's not a ton of power. I think Jock Peterson makes the most sense for this team.
So let me ask you two questions. How much money does Jock Peterson get on an AAV basis?
Do you think it's going to be a lot? I mean, it might be more than what I'm thinking.
But close your eyes and spit out the first contract that comes to mind.
2 years, $34 million.
Okay, 17 a year.
Yeah.
Can the Padres afford that?
Can they not?
I don't think they can if we're talking about all this cutting. They're at 200 mil still.
Yeah. I mean, they'd still be under the luxury tax adding him.
Yeah,
It's just he's such a perfect fit. And maybe it isn't that much. Maybe it is less. It might not be.
Wasn't the report that they wanted to stay below 200? I don't have it in front of me.
Dennis Lynn, Padres prefer to stay under luxury tax in 2024, could reduce payroll below 200 million. I think for round numbers and, you know, just to give a little buffer, let's say we have them around 210. What was the number that they're at right now?
199 when you have arbitration estimates put in.
We are handcuffed.
Yes.
We are handcuffed.
I don't see a way for the Padres not to get worse if they want to hit this
They can trade
marker. They can trade. I've got some trade options here. Aram, do you have any trade options?
I have some in mind.
Okay. Do they revolve around Hassan Kim?
I think if you really want to be competitive, it's really hard to justify trading Ha-Seong Kim. I really think it's hard to justify moving him at this point.
Yeah.
I think
I
I have a
guess like
trade
I'll
option.
just okay.
How expensive is Max Kepler going to be to trade for?
Not.
You could trade for him. He's a good
Yeah.
player, right? Outfielder, some power, right? You can move him around from the
that's
left.
one of the guys I was looking at, honestly. I think Kepler makes a lot of sense. And again, if Merrill comes up and he's ready and Kepler, isn't playing great or whatever, he's making around 10 mil this year. Twins are looking to cut some salary, but you could kick a slightly better prospect and have them kick in a little bit of money too. And you kind of help each other there. And it's at least an established option that you feel pretty good about. And if you don't want to pay the whole salary and he's not performing and Jackson Merrill's performing really well, you could probably dump him, at some point towards the end of the season, especially if you're not performing that well as a team. The other one that I'm kind of looking at is who's a player with some control, who's cheap that they could trade for, that maybe they can offer something that a team could be interested in. I gotta float my Marlins in here because I think everybody is available. I think it's extremely underrated how available everybody is. I don't think that they swing for the fences on some major deal. Jesus Sanchez, I could see them moving him. He's extremely cheap. He's going to be able to get them a decent return in terms of prospects. And Bendix wants to really replenish this farm system. And I mean, Bendix was there when they traded him away from the Rays. There's a reason why they moved him. There was a lot of red flags in the profile, and it's been a slow progress for Jesus Sanchez, who finally kind of put it together a little bit this year. I wouldn't be surprised if Bendix wants to move him again. He sent him from the Rays, probably send him out of town again if he doesn't really believe in him as a player. And there were some makeup concerns and some things that frustrated the Marlins, I know, during the season. I think that he could be a guy that gets moved, and the Marlins can finally get some intriguing prospects back. The Padres have so many arms that they could potentially trade, especially now after that trade with Soto. They could trade an Adam Mazer, who I actually really like. They have a bunch of AA arms they could flip one of those Yankee arms in a deal to the Marlins. Marlins need some pitching depth throughout their system. And I could see them matching up on a deal there going into next year. The Marlins ain't trying to get back to the playoffs. I just genuinely don't believe that. I think they're trying to replenish this farm.
I feel like they would love a Johnny Brito type. Like that would be not exactly what they're looking for, because obviously they're looking for a middle rotation arm, but like having him as a 5/6/ a guy that can hang out in Jacksonville for a little bit kind of seems like best case scenario for them. And I think, yeah, Brito and another for a Jesus Sanchez could be great. I will throw you my Kim thought, because if the Padres are truly looking to cut the 7 on Kim and then the $7 million mutual option on Kim in 25, might I point you to Boston, where Boston clearly needs some help when it comes to the infield, particularly the middle infield.
Hmm.
Ha-Seong Kim for a package centered around one of Ceddanne Rafaela or Jarren Duran. I think there is a world where he may cost both, and San Diego puts in another player to follow, like, hey, you need another fourth outfield type. If they were to go with, okay, you give us, Kim or Nelas and another lower level prospect for Rafaela and Duran, I don't know if the Red Sox say yes to it, but I think that solves some of the outfield issue, and you get way cheaper immediately because both those guys have several pre-arb years left.
I like the thought, but is the way of cutting payroll trading Kim? I feel like he's the best, cheapest option on the team. I like the thought, though. It makes total sense. I know Red Sox fans are probably throwing up in their mouth a little bit over the fact that they might have to trade.
But you go and get a 4.5 win player. There you are with the thumbs up again.
I don't know why it's going.
New Apple update. But you go and get a 4.5 win player that can play shortstop.
Oh, absolutely. Like it makes sense. I like Arm's thought on Jesus Sanchez. I cannot see the Padres trading Kim right now. I mean, he was arguably their most valuable player outside of Tatis last year, and he's the cheapest quote unquote star that they have. Like if they're trading Kim as well, I mean, we're not signing anybody. I feel like this is now they're waving the white flag here.
Yeah, it's kind of one step forward, and then it's kind of a lateral move, I would say. Actually, not even a step forward. So I do like the idea of trading Kim if you're going to kind of say, hey, we're rebuilding, and I just don't think that they're going to do
How
that.
can they
I like
rebuild
that
with
long term for them.
Bogarts? Bogarts, Machado. Like, how can they rebuild with all these guys
can't.
within the 10-year contracts?
They can't.
They can't.
I think they got to trade from the prospects, and they always do that. They have no problem doing that, and they just signed another IFA stud who's probably going to be one of their key dudes. They could sell high on one of Marcy or Pauly. We've seen a bunch of guys that were in the AFL get moved because a lot of teams feel confident about the looks that they were able to get at these players. And again, Marcy showed very well. I could see them being more in favor of maybe packaging those guys to get a vet or get somebody that's relatively affordable rather than trading one of the more consistent guys you got. Because if they do suck this year, you're not going to get the same return, but you can still trade Kim at the deadline and then just get a prospect return then.
I think we should either trade for Kepler or Jesus Sanchez and find the best trade in doing so. And I guess the reason to trade for Kepler is it's not as much of a commitment, right? You're talking about all these guys that could potentially be their next left fielder. Kepler could just provide an offensive thump because he is a free agent after the year. Jesus Sanchez, if you trade for him, might be a little bit more expensive, but he does come with some control. He's very, very cheap. But I do feel as if, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, that if you're trading for Jesus Sanchez, you're kind of thinking that he is going to be the left fielder, at least for the next couple of years. And then what do you do with your other guys who you might want to bring up instead? That's why I feel like Kepler is that kind of perfect middle. But I'm willing to talk about both of them because I think both have their pros and cons.
Kim hits free agency, so Merrill goes to second.
There you go.
And then Marcy.
No, but where are you going to put Cronenworth? Maybe he goes to second.
Cronenworth plays first.
I know.
And then Marcy would presumably play center field. And then, you see where, Graham Pauly lines up, and you're not really basing any decisions on Graham Pauly. I think it just depends on how much they want to give up, prospect return wise. I think from a financial perspective and just the trend of AJ Preller not giving a shit about trading prospects, I could see them being willing to go trade for a guy with control. I just don't know how they feel about Jesus Sanchez, very polarizing player.
Jack, if you're AJ Preller, you've heard the pitch for Kepler, you've heard the pitch for Jesus Sanchez. We'll give you kind of the deciding vote. What would you rather do? And then we'll move on.
Rather do Jesus Sanchez. You think about the best players in your lineup. Xander Bogaerts, bats, right-handed. Manny Machado, bats, right-handed. Fernando Tatis Jr., bats, right-handed.
Kepler's
so like,
lefty.
what? Yeah, I know. But like Sanchez he's almost like a platoon option. He's that much better against right-handed pitching than he is left on left. Does he get many at bats left on left or no?
No.
Yeah, that's my thing. It's like you shield him. I think Kepler gives off more of an idea of an everyday guy where he may be, honest to God, more expensive. Like that's the thing. But if you're trading for a platoon guy, I think that fits their prospect range right now without having to part ways with a Merrill or a Dylan Head or a Lesko or a Snelling, those kind of guys. If you can get away with the non-blue chippers, I think that's kind of where you can make your money there.
Let's roll with Sanchez. So we just traded Brito and a flyer in order to get Jesus Sanchez.
Sure.
I think we were good to move on from the offense.
I think
now,
a little
we're
more.
rolling. Go ahead,
take
Arm.
a little more than that, but we don't need to get into it.
Yeah, like Brito and who?
I think a Pauly or a Marcy. I think those
Okay.
guys.
So let's say Brito and Pauly.
Expensive.
Yeah.
Expensive.
No,
Yeah, everybody's expensive right now, dude.
Yeah. No, I'm down. I'm down to do it.
Pitching rotation right now. Joe Musgrove, Yu Darvish, Michael King, Randy Vasquez, Matt Waldron. Heido Iriarte is close. Iriarte is going to be in AAA. Arm, you love him. We just traded Johnny Brito, so he doesn't really factor in. Other guys are like Jay Groom. They really lack some depth. Sign somebody to a 1
I like
year
Mazer.
deal.
I think Mazer could get up there as well.
Yep. Mazer can get up there. I mean, shit, dude. Lesko can climb quickly. Snelling is already in AA. Like, hell, we'll see what happens. So they've got options. The bullpen, I think, like, you do not need to touch. And Arm, I'm going to run through the names, but I want you to give me the primer on Yuki Matsui in a moment. Matsui probably slots in as either the 8th or 9th inning guy. I bet he gets closer reps. Robert Suarez is the setup guy. Angel De Los Santos, I thought, was a great swap down budget-wise for Scott Barlow. Hell, I think there are spurts where De Los Santos is just better than Barlow, flat out.
I love that move. He is better,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, Steven Wilson, Tom Cosgrove had a good year. Adrian Morejon has some shit from the left side. And then Stephen Kolek was a Rule 5 guy too. But, Aram, give us the 811 on Yuki Matsui.
Oh, he's funky. I think people are going to really enjoy him on Savant specifically. Like 5'8", unique release. He gets like 24 inches of IVB. I saw a couple of fastballs in the World Baseball Classic that were 24 inches of induced vertical break, which would be like, the highest that you've like ever seen. Basically, these guys from Japan can just spin the ball and just do things with the ball that's just different. It's almost like they're born with a baseball in their hand. And the way they're able to manipulate it is unbelievable. And then his splitter is up there with any of the guys that are going to be coming over. It might be better than just about everybody not named Yamamoto. 30% swinging strike rate on the pitch in Japan last year. I mean, the guy has closer stuff. He's going to be really uncomfortable at bat. It's not like he throws 90 either. It's 93, 94 with that kind of life and that kind of jump to it. He can be a closer for them or a really, really, really good setup man. So there's a reason why they shelled out 4 years when they don't want to be spending money right now.
Just to put 24 inches of IVB into perspective, off the top of your head, do you know which pitcher in Major League Baseball led an IVB on their fastball last year that's induced vertical break that gives it that rise? Like 24 inches is absurd.
Yeah, I would say so. Top IVB guy. I mean, like Nestor Cortez is an example of one of the better like high carry fastballs. So you're like, how does that 90 just get by everybody? He's like 20, 21, sometimes 22 inches of IVB. Guys are not getting 24. It's just very, very, very rare.
Interesting.
Guys, I don't really want to do anything to the bullpen.
I don't think
or
they
the
need to do
rotation.
anything. And I love Kolek in the Rule 5. I think Kolek is really good. I think he's he could be a seventh inning guy for them. So I think they're pretty good relief wise.
Yeah. All right. We made the only move. Jesus Sanchez for Johnny Brito and Graham Pauley. Let's call it a day.
I love this show. We just spent like 25 minutes and we made one move, but I liked the move.
That's fine. We're going to do the
I had fun.
Pirates. Strap
I had
in.
fun. Yeah.